Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is the highly requested Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance palette review. I do have a gray lipstick on today. It's Dose of Colors Desert Suede. So I am looking a little corpse-like, but that's okay. I like to wear some of my different lipsticks when I'm not at work. Tomorrow I'm going through to get my hair toned again, so I just have it as a mop on top of my head. As always, there will be markers in the description box below where you can skip ahead to swatches if that's all you care to see. I'm obsessed with this palette. I really like this palette. I think they did an excellent job, a home run on this. It's been a while since I've bought a palette that I actually love every shade in it, and I think it's really good. I do have it on my eyes today. I filmed a Get Ready With Me yesterday where I did the look that I had on in my Jeffree Star review video that so many of you asked. So after this review, I will edit and put that up. I just wanted to get my thoughts out on the palette first. I believe there is only one palette from Anastasia that I have not got. And guys, I know like it's probably supposed to be pronounced Anastasia, but I'm American. That's just the way we say it. I don't know. I depot all of her palettes, which is actually really easy because these typically are in a cardboard little housing. I just put my depotting tool in there and I just pry them up. The reason for that is because I don't like to have a ton of these things taking up space in my drawer. I would much rather have them all in one spot. And I actually, because I'm a weirdo with my labels, I use a label maker and I put them in rows and I say which palette they are, like the Amrezy, the Lavish, Tamana, the Catwalk, Maya Mia. This is one, the Artist Couture palette that I actually recently just popped out so you guys can see. So this palette retails for $42 and I actually picked mine up off of her site. It is now on Sephora, but in all honesty, I had like anxiety that I was going to sell out, so I would prefer to have got my points with Sephora through them, but I ordered again directly from the site. It did take a while for shipping. It took like almost a week, but I think that's pretty standard for her shipping. This palette, you're getting 14 shades. Each shade is 0.02 ounces, adding up for a total of 0.28 ounces in the entire palette for all 14 shades. That breaks down to a cost of $3 per shadow in this palette. What I really like, I just took the brush out. What I really like about this palette is all of the mattes in here. I feel like for me personally, I use mattes the most. So versus a palette like this, which was the self-made one, I actually got it because I really love this deep purple color. And I do like some of these. I really like hot chocolate. I personally prefer more mattes than shimmers. And this one only has one ultra matte, 2 ultra mattes in it, and the rest are shimmers. This one contains 12 ultra mattes, one that they say ultra matte with a metallic finish, which that seems like an oxymoron to me, but whatever. One satin and then one metallic finish in here, making this palette very versatile. My favorite shade in this palette is Love Letter. It is drop dead gorgeous, and every time I open up this palette, I want to use that color. Realgar is so nice too. Venetian Red I really love. The Red Ochre I really love. Burnt Orange. I like every color in this palette. There's not one that I don't like. This Primavera does have, it has the potential of having fallout. I just make sure that I swipe my brush in and just pack it on my lid. Don't like use a fluffy brush and go nuts. Out of this palette, there are 3 shades that you can buy that she makes individually, and the rest are unique to this palette. Shades that you can buy individually are this Buon Fresco, Burnt Orange, which is right here, and then Warm Taupe. A lot of the shades in this palette are named after and pay homage to artists and techniques from Renaissance art period, which was cute. I've noticed a huge difference in the formulation of these eyeshadows, which these are outstanding. I always really liked the palettes that I got from them, and I did start a separate book for their individual shades. I've just been buying a couple at a time as I see fit. But I will tell you that these shades in this palette are much more creamy and buttery and feel like just overall really pigmented. With that being said, some of these will have some fallout on your cheeks, like this Love Letter that I'm obsessed with. If I go in and dip my brush in too heavy and I start blending in my crease, I can get a little fallout on my cheeks, which I don't mind. That color is, again, drop dead gorgeous. I love it. Today on my eyes, I have Raw Sienna, Burnt Orange, Cypress Umber, Primavera, and Vermeer on my eyes. This shade right here is my burnt orange individual, and I do also have it in a palette, but I will say I noticed such a consistency difference in here. I don't know how to quite describe it, but there is a difference, and there's even actually a slight difference on the color variation. So I went and compared the ingredients back and forth, and the shades in this palette are very unique to any other eyeshadow formula that she has. They are different. It's even different from the exact colors in here, like these two burnt oranges do not share the same formula. That could be one of two reasons. It could be because when something is stored in a palette like this, sometimes you need to make the palette more stable so they will firm, for lack of a better word, firm up a product so it makes it not as likely to shatter, or it could be to make it that it lasts a little longer since it's not in like a tight vacuum seal, you know, it's in a big grouping. There's a few different reasons for that. I will tell you, I far prefer the formulation in this palette over anything else I've tried. I also went as far as to compare the formulation with some of her other palettes, and again, it is very different. I just chose Ash Brown out of her individual shadows as well as Birkin to see those two ultra mattes if they shared any similar formula in this palette, and they do not. I couldn't go and do every one because that would take me forever. As always, I will do swatches on here, but let me list some pros and cons to this. Pros, you can get a ton of different looks with this. Although I always want to gravitate towards this color and use it, I love the pairing of like an orange color and more of like a berry cranberry together. I love that. But like today I wanted to do something different that was more of like neutral with some shimmer on my eye to show that you can get something that I had that was more of like a red look, more neutrals. I do feel, and this is a complete palette, you have everything here from transition shades to highlight shades to all over lid shades. It is a very versatile palette. Pigmentation in here is excellent. They blend excellent. I mean, I think that pretty much sells it in itself. Let's talk about a few cons for me. One con, I don't like this packaging. It feels like a Trapper Keeper that I used to have in school. Don't lie, some of you remember Trapper Keepers and some of you may be too young too. But while I was taking my notes on this, I had like my pen around it, and granted that's like user error stupidity. I did get some icky marks on there and they won't come off, and I do notice like the makeup kind of sticks to it and it doesn't rub off. So that's not really my favorite, but I'll likely depot this. I was thinking of that, but actually I kind of like them all housed together like this. I can travel with this a little easier. Another con is I heard someone say they really liked the brush that theirs came with. When I tried to use this, I got terrible fallout just from the fluffier side all over my face. I had to use tweezers to pick up the black hair. But I never typically use the brushes in a palette, so that doesn't really bother me. I just wanted to let you know. This palette has been increased in its price. Typically, most of the ABH palettes were $35, where this one is coming in at $42. So this one is $7 more than her other palettes typically. In this Artist Couture palette, you only got 12 shades, and in this one you're getting 14. You did also get 14 shades in the Self-Made palette. Now, when I held these up together, I noticed to me that these shadows look bigger than this, but in fact you are getting less in this palette than you are in any of the other palettes she has made so far, which is deceiving. So they must have just made the pans a little more shallow but wide. As always, I'm going to show you a cost breakdown on the screen right here real quick, just to compare the palettes, a couple of the palettes in the past, so you can kind of see. So again, your cost per ounce per gram is going to be higher on this one than any of the previous palettes because the cost has gone up and you're getting less. The Modern Renaissance palette, you are only getting 0.28 ounces, which isn't that big of a difference, but a notable one just to be made aware of. I have noticed, and Ripley pointed this out, so thank you, Ripley, that the shelf life on this says from date of opening is only 6 months, which isn't a terribly long time for eyeshadows, but like my Natasha Denona ones are only 6 months. I do have some products that are only good for 6 months, and it is on par with the rest of her palettes, say 6 months. I personally use powder products longer than the recommended usage. It's just something to be mindful of. Make sure the product doesn't start smelling funky or, you know, turning. So that has to do with sanitizing your brushes and a plethora of other things, how you store it. I do have a whole video on how I keep track of what I have and expiration dates and all that jazz. I will link below if you have any questions on that. So her singles are $12 each, and those are 0.059 ounces. This palette is made in the USA. It is hypoallergenic, and it says it's cruelty-free, which is nice. The packaging is standard packaging really for her. It is this cardboard. I did notice it to be slightly thicker than her other palettes. I think that has to do with this kind of velvet finish, suede on the outside of this. You do get a mirror in here. I typically never use those. I find they get cloudy and it drives me insane. This palette was what I was kind of hoping that Violet Voss Holy Grail palette was going to be. I mean, this one blows that one out of the water, and it's the same cost. Granted, you got more shadows. You got 6 more shadows with the other palette than this one, but it's like 6 more shadows I'm not going to use. These ones are very different. I find the only one really similar to be kind of like the Love Letter and Venetian Red, and not even, because this is more red and this is more of a berry. And maybe Raw Sienna and Burnt Orange, but still, not really. Not once you put them on. So now I'm going to get into some swatches for you guys. I'm going to be using my MAC 239 brush for the mattes, and I'm going to be using my MAC 242 for the shimmers. I'll also be laying down a base, which is my Urban Decay Eyeshadow Primer Potion, and I will also be cleaning my brush off in between on my color switch so my brush will not be damp. As always, I will show you finger swatches versus brush swatches so you can get an idea of how this will perform. Okay, first shade up is Tempera. It's very close to the color of my own skin, but you can see that it still has some pigment to it, which is nice, and it is very nice and smooth. Next is Golden Ochre. Again, guys, be aware that they do have some kick up to them because they are so soft and buttery. This one is Vermeer. I love this shade. It's really pretty. This next one is Born Fresco. It's a great transition shade. And crease color. Oops, I hit myself there. The next is Antique Bronze. Let me take off my watch. Next is Love Letter, which is my favorite in this palette. Oh my god, it's gorgeous. Look at that. Oh, so pretty. Next is Cypress Umber. All of these that I'm digging in do have some kick up, but I think it's well worth it for the butteriness of these. Next one is Raw Sienna. I hardly have to push down on this brush to get good pigmentation. Next one is Burnt Orange. Switch to my 242 for Primavera. This shade can have some fallout on your lid if you go in too heavy. Just be made aware of that. It's a good idea if you're going to be using this or that Love Letter color that you do your eyes prior to your foundation. Next is Red Ochre. Next is Venetian Red. See, look, light, light. Next is Warm Taupe. Next one is Realgar. I love this color. So in closing, guys, I love this palette. I think it's an excellent buy. I don't hesitate to recommend it. I really hope that she comes out with some of these shades individual, because honestly, I would buy each one of these individually. Especially this one. This one's my favorite. Both of these. This is the first palette that they're making permanent as well, which I think is excellent. I think that also speaks to the quality of it, that they've kind of gone all in on that. And I'm curious to see if their independent, like individual shadows will be reformulated in the future to match this formula. It's kind of making me think I might want to hold off on collecting all the individuals till I see if they switch to all these. Even though those originals I like these much better. I hope you guys found this review helpful. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave them in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. And remember, if you are interested in the look that I had on in my Jeffree Star video, I will have a Get Ready With Me coming out shortly. Thank you so much. Bye.